Kia ora everyone, welcome to the Sustainable Business Council's Thriving Voices, Thriving People series. Today we are going to be learning about Chorus's Thriving People strategy. Most of us know Chorus through their work in rolling out the ultra-fast broadband across the country. They employ 800 staff in New Zealand. But most importantly for today's conversation, Chorus are the winner of the Best Wellness Program Award at this year's New Zealand HR Awards and have recently implemented a new parental leave policy. To share more about Chorus's work, we are joined by Shaun Philp. Welcome.
Thank you. Kia ora everyone.
Would you be able to share a little bit with us about the purpose of your Thriving People strategy?
Yeah, at the heart of Chorus, we've got a fundamental purpose of making New Zealand better. We saw that through the global pandemic and how we kept New Zealand connected to continue to learn when schools were closed, continue to work when offices were closed, and to continue to remain connected to the world when we had to stay at home. Thriving people was fundamental to that purpose, and within that we've got some key focus areas: health and safety, worker welfare, more broadly belonging, and then wellbeing, which has a small focus on flexible work, but I'll talk more about that shortly.
And what were some of those key drivers for you guys in establishing the wellbeing priority?
Yeah, even before the global pandemic, we identified early on that mental health and overall mental health and wellbeing for Chorus was critical for our workforce. We had a board and an executive team that are really interested in ensuring that we're managing the risk, but when you look at managing the risk from a mental health and wellbeing perspective, it can be a little bit more complex. So we had a focus early on, and I think it's paid us dividends as a result of what we've seen more recently as a result of lockdowns and uncertainty more broadly.
Awesome. And we were chatting earlier in terms of the flexible working policy and how you guys have rolled that out in a pretty flexible way. It's a term used pretty regularly. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've established those behaviours in managers to work within that space, because it is one where people feel quite guilty sometimes in working from home? Yeah,
and good question. If I say pre-global pandemic, we had around 25% of our workforce engaged in some sort of flexible work approach, which we were super proud of. The rest of the organisation we struggled to get cut through. Roll forward, and we have, thanks to COVID-19, we have all roles at Chorus have flex. And the approach we've taken there, which is really important, is understanding, first of all, what's right for the customer, then what's right for your team, and then what's right for you, and figuring out what we call as the Chorus sweet spot. That's different for everyone. We're not a believer that flexible work is 3 days at home and 2 days in the office. Flexible work is what's right for the customer, what's right for the team, and then what's right for you, and it needs to be reviewed. More recently, as we were discussing earlier, we've identified, interestingly enough, that employees still feel a sense of guilt. Even though we've been working in this new environment for well over a year and a half now. What's underneath that? I think some behaviours that have been established for many years are hard to undo. So there's a lot of unlearning that needs to take place, both at a people leader level and at an employee level, and that's what we're starting to grapple with now. But at principle, flex is different for everyone, as long as it meets the needs of the customer, the team, and the individual, and they're in that order. Awesome,
thank you for that. Would you be able to tell us a little bit about your new parental leave policy?
Yeah, so we did do a market scan and we were falling behind. It's a kind of table stake to an employee benefit right now, and we introduced a new parental leave policy, and that policy, in addition to government allowances, provides an additional 8 weeks for any new parent. That also includes adoptions as well, and it's flexible in terms of its approach. For example, we've got a dad right now who uses every Tuesday is his day to take off to be with the newborn in their family. And look, I cast my mind back to when we had a newborn in our house, and if I had been able to provide that to our family, I mean, how better would I be, how better would we be? It's a really important piece to be a part of. On top of that, we also accrue annual leave, even if you're not in the office. Equally, once you return to work, we net up your KiwiSaver and we pay that to you as well. And finally, we've partnered with an external provider and a returner program because certainly reintegrating back into the workforce is a really important piece to the puzzle. And we continue to evolve it, right? Because every month or so, the sands change, people bring in new component parts, and that's really important for us to continue to scan the market and remain relevant. Because at the end of the day, if we're all doing it in corporate New Zealand, it's New Zealand who wins.
Yep, absolutely. And for those people who are looking at changing their parental leave policy, any sort of key challenges that you went through that you can provide them with some suggestions on?
The CFO is always interested on how much it'll cost. So I think the key thing there is getting the data, and when you actually get underneath the bonnet and look at the data around the actual costs, it's not that much more material. So when we were able to paint that picture with the facts, it was an easy sale for the CFO.
Awesome, that's great to hear. And Chorus won the Best of Wellness program recently. Congratulations on that. It would be awesome to talk through some of the components. There's a lot of components to it, so maybe just your top two that you're most proud of.
Yeah, I think at the beginning it is getting clear on your strategy, and I'm really happy to share that our wellbeing program has got different elements to it. We focus on financial wellbeing, we focus on career wellbeing, we focus on mental wellbeing, and they are all equally important. So getting really clear on your strategy and then your actual elements that sit underneath that is the first piece. I think the other piece is continue to adapt and evolve. So if I look at COVID-19 and our workforce largely being at home for an extended period of time, how do we bring mental health and wellbeing home with employees? So we've made a number of partnerships with Mentamia and Sarah Laurie from Breathe to ensure that the device that sits in our pockets can be a coach to help mental health and wellbeing for all our employees at Chorus. We've then extended that to all their friends and whānau as well.
Oh, wow, awesome. And have you any stories that you've heard back from that you could share?
Yeah, I think more recently we've seen the CEO play quite a significant role in how he's using the Mentamia coaching app to help support his mental health and wellbeing. And I think what that has done for the organisation is actually make it a topic of conversation, which is a really important piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely, and that normalisation is really key. So for other organisations that are looking at your journey and what you've shared and thinking, man, that sounds great, are there advice or learnings that you could give them? Yeah,
I think often the question when I talk about our broader program at conferences, we don't have a lot of money, we're a non-for-profit. You know, how can we do what you're doing? What's really interesting is there is a myriad of free resources out there already. So I'd encourage everyone to spend the time looking at all the different government agencies and the organisations that support mental health and wellbeing more broadly, and leverage all the free resource. It's there, it's best in class, and most importantly it's available. You just need to knit it together.
Awesome, that's a great idea, and we'll put some links into the video for people to have a look at that. Well, thank you so much for your time and for sharing some of Chorus's insights.
Thank you.